Good. Welcome back. You're watching this check where great conversations are always our mainstay. We've been having an awesome conversation around the cost of energy, how to improve how to improve the cost of energy in this country, and of course how to improve access to the same. And of course you have had it all from the experts. Time now to wear different hats and discuss issues around poultry farming. Did you know that Kenya has about 32 million birds, and it's one of the biggest poultry farming country in Africa? That's true. But the industry has gone through some turbulence in the recent past because of COVID-19, where consumption of poultry products went down, as well as competition from the neighboring countries, where Kenya has been importing a lot of eggs from Uganda. We want to see how this conversation can be structured, and of course how we can boost the poultry farming in Kenya. Ada Kimani is the CEO of Cookie Poultry. He's joining us now to guide us in this conversation. Thank you very much, Arthur, for your time. When you look at the poultry industry in Kenya, it contributes about 9.2 billion shillings, to the Kenyan economy every year. How is it now in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic?
Okay. Maybe I would start first by describing basically when we're talking about poultry farming, we're basically talking about broiler farming, we are talking about layer farming, we are talking about the new improved kienyeji, and we are talking about the kienyeji that most of us grew up with back home. So if we're looking at it in that aspect, I would say one, in terms of broilers, broiler farming, which is now my main area of expertise, has been greatly affected by COVID. As we were sharing just before this interview, I've been doing this business since 2009. So I've been in the business for about 11 years, basically doing broiler. I grew from doing about 800 birds to about 6,000 birds a month. But come COVID, all this came crumbling down because one, you find there was a big issue where the lockdown came in. There was the issue that most companies now went under in terms of hotels closed, tourism went down. So guys were unable to pay debts, were unable to sustain the business anymore. So some of us closed down. Still, during that period of COVID, our neighbors, Uganda, you find imports came in terms of even for the chicken meat, the broiler meat came in, eggs came in. So again, farmers, as much as COVID put us down, again, we have cheaper imports coming in, which we cannot compete with. So yes, it's greatly affected us during this period.
This has been greatly affected.
Yes.
Before you closed down your operations because of COVID-19, how was business?
I would say before I closed down, business was good. In terms of, when I mean business was good, for a broiler farmer, you're basically a caretaker. In terms of, you'll be given the day-old chick, you'll be given the feeds. So basically, your work is to take care of that. Number two, before COVID, call it around 2017, 2018, business was good in terms of tourism was okay, so you'd find our sales were doing okay. Come 2019, business started slowing down. Now come 2020, things became a lot different. We crashed really badly because one, I think, as you also had the president talk about it yesterday at Mashujaa Day, the cost of feeds has really gone up. I would tell you, when I closed in 2020, I was buying a 50 kg bag of feed at 29.80. Right now, farmers are buying the same feed at 4,100 currently.
That's almost double.
Almost double. And the unfortunate part is the cost, the sale price has not gone up. Whatever prices guys were selling in 2017, 2018, 2019, are they still
the cost
prevailing?
of eggs have not changed?
Nothing has changed. The cost of meat hasn't changed. You find that in 2020, maybe cost of production per kg was about 280. Right now, cost of production per kg should be about 380. So if somebody comes to your farm and tells you, I want to buy your chicken at 300 kg, you're already at a loss of 80 shillings. Yes.
Now, apart from COVID, I mean, there were signs that, the poultry industry in Kenya, was headed for some tough reckoning. And, COVID just came to exacerbate the situation. Even before COVID-19, the poultry farmers were complaining about high cost of feed because of high electricity and the high cost of production.
Yes.
So where we are now, what do we need to do to deal with this situation?
Maybe first I should highlight, just as you say, those challenges. You find farmers are having a big challenge in terms of feed. Cost of feeds are quite high. For broiler farmers, you find the cost of production, 75% of the cost of production is feed costs. So you can imagine where a price is doubling, meaning things are really going quite high for a farmer. The next thing is the cost of chicks. So the cost of chicks, I would tell you, when I started this business, I think we're buying chicks at 60 shillings. Right now a chick is at 85 shillings, which directly affects, the cost of chick just directly affects the cost of fuel. Broiler farming depends on electricity.
Yeah.
For broilers, they feed 24 hours, day and night. So one, that affects us. Number two, for the first 3 weeks, we need to heat those birds.
Yeah.
We've been using gas. Initially, I think a 50 kg cylinder in 2020 was retailing at about 5,000. Currently, we're buying the same at 8,000. Again, you see, it's almost doubling the cost what we did there. Number three, just as you mentioned, is the cheap imports from Uganda, which are also affecting us greatly. And number four, sorry to say, there are people called seasonal farmers who are also affecting us. And when I say seasonal farmers, I mean the farmer who says, let me keep some chicken because it's Christmas. Let me keep some chicken because there's shortage. Because you see, now there are people who, their core business is chicken farming. So this farmer who comes in and out affects them greatly. Now, to move to, I think, what maybe the government or what can be done to salvage this, I think we need a conversation around the imports. We need to have an open discussion on what should come in at what price, so that also locally we can be competitive. We're also seeing a situation maybe where we also need now to have a conversation around GMO, so that we're able to lower the feed costs. We are also looking to have a conversation with government in terms of subsidies. Just to put it in perspective, chicken from Brazil to South Sudan and chicken from Kenya to South Sudan, we cannot compete. We are neighbors, but that chicken from Brazil will come much cheaper than what we can produce here. And the issue being that their government has subsidized most of the things for them. The feeds, their inputs are really subsidized.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the issues that you have discussed here are issues that are not going to change, or dynamics that are not going to change in the next 1, 2, 3 or 4 months. Some of them may take a bit of time. So in the immediate, what is there anything that you feel the government can do or the private sector can do to change the fortunes of the flagging poultry farming in Kenya?
What I would say, in the immediate, there are conversations we can have, quite quick conversations we can have. And one of the conversations would be, we are urging farmers to join cooperatives so that we can have the bargaining power. Just as I told you, there's already one formed. It's called Broiler World Cooperative, where farmers are trying to come in together to have bargaining power. Using this bargaining power, we can, one, go to the chick producers and tell them, look, our consumption is per month 30,000, 40,000 birds. How can we help each other? We buy your stock, you lower the prices for us. That can be done instantly. We can have a conversation around soya, because soya is one of the major ingredients in feeds, and it's missing. I think Kenya is a great importer of soya. We don't have enough. So we can have a conversation where government will say, look, then we'll go out there, we'll get the soya, we'll give the millers, provided millers are able to lower these prices within the next month. Yes.
When you look at the industry now, I mean, you're talking about, you used to have about 8,000 birds, before you closed down business, and you are not alone. There are so many people who have who are forced to close down their poultry farming business because of COVID-19. Do we have an understanding as to how many people have managed to close or have been forced to shutter their business because of COVID-19?
Unfortunately, we do not have, because as I told you, the problem I think also as poultry farmers we've been facing is we've not been united. You find poultry farmers in Kiambu have their own organization, poultry farmers in Nyeri have their own, those in maybe Rift Valley have their own. So you find the dynamics have been quite different for all of them. Unless maybe people come up and say, look, I closed. We do not have that statistics to say that. We know maybe 20, 30 or 100 farms have closed. But I will tell you that even if guys haven't closed, most people have really scaled down. You'd find maybe farmers who are doing 30,000 maybe doing maybe 3,000 right now, 4,000, because the business is no longer sustainable as is right now. Yes.
How long do you see the industry taking before we can go back to pre-COVID levels?
I think it will take some time. And when I say it will take some time, I'm putting in mind that we are headed into an election year. I would say, like for broiler, our biggest consumers are hotels and tourism industry. Locally, maybe the consumption is not that big in terms of maybe household, but in terms of conferencing, all that, which have really slowed down, that has really affected us. So I would give it another almost 1 year for us to go back to volumes in terms of production. In terms of pricing of feed, as I told you, maybe government can intervene. Already, I think 2 days ago, the speaker, there's a motion, we're trying to lobby MPs to help us in having a discussion with millers in how we can bring these feed prices down. So we're really hoping that will move forward and maybe we can see results in maybe a month or two.
Very good.
Yes.
I mean, we're having a conversation around how to change the fortunes of Kenya's poultry sector. Of course, it's a critical subsector in the agriculture industry. And of course, we are having Arthur Kimani in the studio. Back in studio here, our conversation is around the poultry farming, where we're trying to analyze the situation, look at the market, and of course, create different scenarios on what we need to do to safeguard the interest of this important sector. How many people, do we have an idea of how many people are engaged in poultry farming in Kenya?
You see, when we talk about poultry farming, when we look at the value chain involved in poultry farming, from the miller, from the breeder of chicks, from the farmer, the workers, the butcheries, the supermarkets, that value chain, I think would be approximately about 15 million people are involved in that value chain if you were to consider the whole value chain. If you were to consider maybe in terms of farmers, I would say maybe 3,000 farmers. And when I say farmers, I mean usually anything, I think we consider a farmer, anyone doing about 500 birds is considered a farmer in terms of that is the economical number to keep to be able to sustain you as a business. Yes.
Another thing that, that is failing the industry is the fact that a lot of people, when they had that people are making money in poultry farming, they rushed into this sector without expert knowledge on how to go about it. So how do we create knowledge around poultry farming here in Kenya so that people can be armed with the right information?
Okay. This, just as we had discussed just earlier, I told you there are people called seasonal farmers. Seasonal farmers are the guys who are out there. So they have, in terms of the structures, when I say structures, they have the housing for the chicken.
Yeah.
So what do? They wait. They wait for Christmas, they wait for Easter, they wait to hear there's a shortage. Because at the end of the day, the turnaround time for a broiler chicken is about 38 days. So that person, if today they were told there's a shortage, they are very sure that in the next 38 days, the shortage might still exist. So they will keep the chicken and sell at that point. But now the problem comes at times they might think that shortage is there, but 3 weeks in, the shortage is no longer there. So this person needs to cash out. What do? They'll go to the market. They are told, look, the price is, so for you, a normal farmer, cost of production has been about 280. They're told, if you sell at 260, we'll buy. They're ready to cash out because they don't want to lose out. So they'll cash out at 260 and leaving this farmer, who that is his full-time job, at the mercy now of that broker, who will now again buy the chicken at 260. So what basically as farmers we are trying to do is we are trying to join hands, come into cooperatives, because another factor we are really looking at is, let's say an interesting factor. If I was to ask you how much is beef or mbuzi at your place, I'm most likely sure it's almost the same price as what I'm buying. But if I was to ask you what the prices of chicken are in your area against mine, the prices are quite different. So also as a cooperative, we are looking to fix the price. And we're not looking to fix the price in a bad way, but we're looking to fix the price to also secure our interests. So that we say, look, at the end of the day, the production is at 380. So no one should sell or buy below that price of 380. So that this business, it's just a business as any other. For it to be sustainable, we need to do that. Yes.
But you also have people who are in this business, and I understand poultry farming is a business whereby you need to understand the economy of poultry farming, otherwise you can be making zero returns and in the process you burn your fingers. So is there a way that these people can be empowered, or people out there can be empowered, so that their poultry farming business can remain resilient?
Yes. So one, I'll tell people that just as you said, there's nothing that comes easy. So one, it takes time to learn. I will tell you, in the 9 years, I've burnt my fingers a few times. Number two, I've told you, for a poultry farmer, you're basically a caretaker. You do not know the quality of the chick, you do not know the quality of the feed. But I will tell you, for an experienced farmer, by the time chicks arrive on his farm, by day 3, he'll tell you these ones will make it or they won't. Because already there are signs he will see and notice, okay, here there's a problem. My chicks have a problem or my feed has a problem. In terms of education, I would say anyone wanting to venture out, I know Kenchik have classes. I don't know whether, before COVID they had, I think Wednesday or Thursday, they had classes where they teach farmers on how to keep the chicken. So I would ask farmers maybe to contact them and talk with them. I'll also urge anyone wanting to go in, I'm sure near your vicinity, near your neighborhood, there's a farmer who's doing it. So you can go have a discussion with them and maybe they can guide you on how to go about it. Yes.
And from the 9 years, I think 9 or 11 years that you are in the market,
yes,
what lessons did you learn that you believe people that you can share with the people? I'm very sure there is some person who is listening to us and they're saying, wow, I think I would want to try my luck in poultry farming.
So I will I will say in terms of the farming. So in terms of farming, I would say any new farmer wanting to venture out, I will tell you it is not easy. It will take time for you to build expertise. It will take time for you to build capital, because again, poultry farming is capital intensive. Just to give maybe a picture, I would say to do about 1,000 birds, you'd need maybe about 300 to 350,000. And this money, you'd have to have it upfront. Poultry farming, you cannot say, I will start with 100, by the time I get here, I will be... No, you'd have to have this money at the point of starting. You'd have to know who to engage in terms of chick producers. You'd have to know which feeds are doing very well in the market. Because unfortunately, if you pick the wrong feed, you're doomed. And for broilers, you're really doomed because you see, after 6 weeks, if you've not achieved your weight, you're out. That's a loss, and there's now no other way you can mitigate it. You're done at that point. Yes, so I'll tell them to take time, build capital, visit before you engage, go around, talk to farmers in your neighborhood. And when I say talk to farmers, just don't go talk to a farmer who you've never supported. Start by supporting that farmer. Instead of buying directly from the butchery, just go to that farmer, tell him, every month I'll pick 5 from you. I will, my uncle, my auntie, just support that local farmer. So by the time you're going back to him, he's like, this guy has supported me, now it's time for me to support him. Yes.
Is poultry farming profitable?
Yes, it is profitable. If you do it right. Yes, it's profitable if the market is right. Because again, the poultry farming market is it fluctuates too much. Today, I can tell you, we can wake up and ask prices today, you'll be told maybe 240 a kilo. 3 days from now, you might be told 300 a kilo. And you're happy and you're like, oh, things are working out. 3 days from then, you're told 200 a kilo. So it really it depends on what are you looking out for. There are people who will venture, there's someone who ventures out and says, look, I have the capital, so I'm looking at numbers. As much as the margins might be less, but for me, the volumes will help me meet my target. There's someone who will be saying, look, I do not have that much money, so I'm looking to keep 300. Once I slaughter this 300, I'm hoping to sell at a premium price to my neighborhood, to my friends, and make money. So again, it depends basically how you want to do the business. Do you want to go large scale? Do you want to go small? Yes.
What are the profit margins in on average in poultry farming?
I can't really give it a figure, because at the end of the day, I've told you, for a farmer, you do not know the end product. Because see, here is, you have a chick that you're not the producer of that chick. You have feed that you're not the producer. So if anything goes wrong in between there, yes, I can be saying, look, I'm hoping to make 50 shillings a bad. But at the end of the day, I'll either make a loss or make 10 shillings a bad. But I know mostly on contract farming, it's about 30 shillings a bad. So you'd find maybe, yes, about 30 shillings a bad or per kilo. Yes, that would be, yes.
And but per kilo would be like 1 bad or?
No, a bad, most bads, for you to be profitable, when I say a bad, I mean, so what usually happens, we put cost of production per kilo. So let's call it, let me just go a bit lower. Let me pick something like 300 per kilo. So if that bad achieves weight of 1 kg, it means it has spent 300 bob a kilo. But if it achieves 1.5, it means that bad, cost of production of that bad is 200. Okay? So the weight is what guarantees you profitability. So if you have better weights, you're more profitable than someone who achieves, let's say you have 2 farmers, each doing 500, same inputs. This guy achieves an average weight of 1.1 or 1.2. This guy achieves an average weight of 1.4. 1.4 is much profitable than this other guy. Yes.
There has been argument that cost of feed, animal feeds, constitute about almost 80% of the entire cost of poultry farming. How true is this, from your experience in the industry?
Yes, that is true, because again, we can just do a simple mathematics in terms of, we say we do 1,000 birds. So like for broiler farming, you have starter feeds and you have finisher feeds. During the period of that about 38 days, each bird should consume 1 kilo of starter feed and 2.8 kilos of finisher feed. So in total, they've consumed 3.8 kgs of starter feed. 3.8 per bird would be, and here we are talking about 50 kg bags, meaning would be doing about 60 bags. So if you say 60 bags times the 4,000 I was talking about is about 240. The same 1,000 birds, to keep them is about 300,000, 350. So you can see clearly that the feeds outweigh anything else in that math. Yes.
So is there any way that you can reduce these cost outlays?
I think once, when we look at the costs, I think the variable costs would be, just as we said, would be the chick prices. And I've told you the chick prices are proportionately directly affect, because at the end of the day, if you say a chick is 60 shillings, so if today I'm buying it at 60 and tomorrow 85, that's a difference of 25 shillings. So if you're doing 10,000 birds, that's immediately an increase of 250,000 in your cost. So one, we can look at chick prices. Number two, we can look at feed prices, because once you lower feed prices, which again, as you said, constitutes about 75 to 80%, you've really changed that pricing.
You can decide to enter into the business. You can either decide to become a hatcher, whereby you just hatch chicks and then you sell. You can decide to be buying chicks and then you mature them into big birds and you sell them, or you can get into the eggs value chain where you just buy eggs and you sell them. Between the three, where are the risks are bigger?
For me, I would say the risks are equal in all, because here's the thing: if you decide to be a hatcher, hatcheries have biosecurity. For them, biosecurity is top notch, because at the end of the day, for you to have a hatchery would mean you're in an isolated place. You should not be having, I think usually the radius is about 1 kilometer. You should be in a kilometer radius in terms of there are no people around you, there are no other livestock around you, because see also bird diseases come through air. So if you have other birds, that will affect. So you have here a parent stock which needs to be very healthy. You have a parent stock which is feeding and producing now these chicks. So one, the kind of investment there is quite high. Not many people can afford. And if you were to look today, the number of hatcheries in Kenya, I think they're not more than maybe 5 or 6 because of the cost of investment. So I would say that has its own risk, because one, if the parent stock gets sick, you cannot produce eggs. If you cannot produce eggs, the parent stock is feeding. So how do you feed that parent stock if you're not selling the chicks? So one, that has its own risks. Then I think you said the next is a farmer who now again, as I said again, is a caretaker. He's been given chicks, he's been given feeds that he does not produce himself. Then the last one is the guy we call a broker. So still also for the broker, the risk is this. When things are bad, people will rush to you. They'll be like, oh, buy from me, buy, do, yes, here. But you'll go in the market and you'll source for customers at the prices you're getting. But when things improve, the same farmers will leave you and now go directly into the market. So you as a broker will also go out of business, because now the farmer will say, no, the market is good enough, I'll go directly into the market. So you'll be left out.
What has been the impact of imported eggs into the Kenyan market?
The impact,
and how comes we cannot compete with Uganda in terms of eggs production?
I think the simplest explanation for that is source of raw materials. As you know, even for our millers, most of, again, maize, soya, most of the ingredients they get from Uganda. So one, Uganda is ahead of us in terms of production, in terms of the ingredients of the feeds. Again, number two, Ugandan farmers are also big farmers. At the end of the day, you'll find there are farmers in Uganda doing 20,000 layers, 30,000 layers, because again, the feeds are quite cheap there, so the capital investment is quite lower than what we are doing here. So you'll find brokers will opt to do this. Let me go to Uganda. This guy will be able to give me 3,000, 4,000 trays at one go. Then I'll just ship them in a truck and sell. In Kenya, because of that high cost of feed, high cost of chicks, high cost of electricity, our farmers are much smaller. You'll find most of our farmers are doing 5,000 birds, 4,000 birds. So a broker or somebody or a food processor will be out and look and see, look, this guy it will take him about a week or two to give me what I'm getting in a day from Uganda. So they'll go directly into Uganda, pick the eggs, which are much cheaper. They'll pick the meat, which is much cheaper there, and bring it into the market, Kenyan market. Yes. For
farmers, and especially who are on the on the last end or on the last page of the value chain, like, brokers who sell eggs. For them to break even in the Kenyan market, how much would one egg cost?
For me, I'd be using maybe statistics for 2020, when prices were a bit low. I think an egg would cost about 8 shillings. Would be about 8 shillings to produce, which is quite high. Because at 8 shillings, that means a tray should be retailing about 240. Yes. So 240, most brokers will buy from farmers maybe at 260 a tray. Then now the broker again will go and sell again either to a supermarket or to someone else maybe at 300 or 290 a tray. Yes.
There was a time when Kenyans used to buy one egg at 15, 20 shillings. But then, because of the influx of eggs from Uganda, the prices have come down to, I think, 10 or 12 shillings.
12 shillings, yes.
12 shillings.
Yes.
Are farmers making profit with this kind of margins?
Like currently, most farmers are not making profits because, as we said again, feed prices have really gone up. As I've told you, the statistics I was giving you, that's maybe 2020 statistics of 8 shillings. Maybe right now, currently, they might be doing about 11 shillings in terms of production. So most farmers right now, I'm sure, are breaking even. Because you see, also for layers, a farmer will keep a layer on the farm for a year and a half. So for you to get maximum profit, you need it to stay in your farm for that year and a half. For you to recoup the cost of buying the chicks, the feeds, whatever you've done to meet production. So right now, I am sure most farmers are just hanging in there, breaking even, waiting for things to improve. Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Arthur, thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us this afternoon, and of course sharing with us your insights on poultry farming.
Thank you.
Your time is highly appreciated. We've been talking to Arthur Kimani. He's a poultry farmer, even though his business has somehow gone bust. But let's hope that he rise up again and keep going. You've been watching Base Check.